श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सर्वरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सर्वं ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्यति नामने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणि चरणे विशेष शून्यादि पाश्चात्य द्वेष तारिणी श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम हरे हरे सर्वशास्त्राब्धि पीयूष सर्ववेदैक सत्फल सर्वसिद्धांत रत्नाट्य सर्वलौकैक प्रद सर्वभागवत प्राण श्रीमद् भागवत प्रभो कलिध्वांतो श्री कृष्ण परिवर्तित परमानंद पाठाय प्रेम शिक्षराय ते सर्वदा सर्वसेव्या श्री कृष्णाय नमस्ते हरेक बंधो मत्संगे मद्गुरो मन्महाधन मन्निस्तारक मद्भाग्य मतानंद नमोस्तुते असाधु साधुनादायन्नतिनीचोच्युताकर आनमंचकदाचिन्मां प्रेम्णा हृत्कण्ठयो स्फुर ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. So we are at 3.32.34, 35, 36 onwards. क्रियया क्रतुभिर्दानैः तपस्वाध्यायमर्शनैः आत्मेन्द्रियजयेनापि सन्न्यासेन च कर्मणां योगेन विविधाङ्गेन भक्तियोगेन चैव हि धर्मेणोभयचिह्नेन यः प्रवृत्तिनिवृत्तिमान् आत्मतत्त्वावबोधेन वैराग्येण दृढेन च ईयते भगवानेभिः सगुणो निर्गुणः स्वदृक्. By performing fruitive activities and sacrifices, by distributing charity, by performing austerities, by studying various literatures, by conducting philosophical research, by controlling the mind, by subduing the senses, by accepting the renounced order of life, by performing the prescribed duties of one's social order, and by performing the different divisions of yoga practice, by performing devotion service, by exhibiting the process of devotion service containing the symptoms of both attachment and detachment, by understanding the signs of self-realization, and by developing a strong sense of detachment. One who is expert in understanding the different processes of self-realization realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he is represented in the material world as well as in transcendence. Shastra Marganeva Prapanchayati. He then elaborates on the various pathways taught in the scriptures. Priyaya iti tribhihi. In 3 verses beginning with text number 34. Kriyaditrayam grihastasya dharmaha. Kriyaya kritabhitanaihi. These are duties, fruitive activities, sacrificial performances, charity. Fruitive activities refer to certain ritualistic fruitive activities. They are duties of a grihastha. Kriyaditrayam grihastasya dharmaha. Tapaha vanaprasthasya. Tapaha austerities belongs to vanaprastha. Marshanam mimamsa. Swadhyaya marshane brahmacharinaha. Swadhyaya and marshana. Marshana refers to philosophical research or studies in mimamsa. Mimamsa. There are two mimamsas available nowadays. One is by Jaimini and one is by Vyasadeva. The one by Jaimini is called Purva Mimamsa. The one by Vyasadeva is called Uttara Mimamsa, or more commonly Vedanta Sutra or Brahma Sutra. Mimamsa gives logical reasons for helping us understand the purport of the Vedas. Jaimini Sutras help us understand the meaning of the Karmakanda portion, the material portion of the Vedas. And the Brahma Sutras help us understand the spiritual portion of the Vedas, the spiritual teachings of the Vedas. So the brahmacharis are supposed to be absorbed in Swadhyaya and study of Vedic literature, along with philosophical research into understanding the purport of the Vedic literature. आत्मेति द्वयं भिक्षोः आत्मेन्द्रियजयेन अपि संन्यासेन च कर्मणा. This is these controlling the mind and the senses by renouncing all fruitive activities internally, by giving up the desires for material benefits, and externally giving up these very activities. That's called sannyasa. So these are duties of the bhikshu. Bhikshu literally means beggar. It refers to a sannyasi. Sannyasi is supposed to become a beggar in a particular sense. Bhakti yogena chaiva hi iti chakarena kriyaya ityadinam bhakti mishratvam gyapayati. Along with bhakti yoga, along with indicates kriyaya bhakti yogena cha rathubhir bhakti yogena cha दानैर भक्ति योगेन च इत्येवं सर्वत्र योजनात् भक्ति योग मिश्रणं विना क्रियादीनां प्रति स्वफल साधकत्व अशक्तिं बोधयति. Along with bhakti yoga means the grihastha's duty is to engage in fruitive activities, sacrificial performances, and charity along with bhakti yoga. The vanaprastha's duties are is to carry out austerities along with bhakti yoga. The brahmachari's duties are to study the Vedic literature and to engage in philosophical research of Mimamsa studies along with bhakti yoga. The sannyasi's duties are to control the mind and senses and to renounce fruitive activities along with bhakti yoga. So this is this itself indicates that without mixing these items with bhakti yoga, these activities by themselves do not produce any benefit. Eva hi shabdabhyam, where is eva hi? Eva hi. Vidangena bhakti yogena cha eva hi. Eva hi shabdabhyam. Through the words eva and hi, avadharanam nishchaya vachakabhyam, which indicate certainty and emphasis. क्रियादि साध्यम वस्तु भक्ति योगेन एव केवलेन लभ्यं निश्चितं स्यात् इति च बोधयति. These two words indicate that the target of these different items, fruitive activities, sacrificial performances, charity, austerity, study of Vedic literature, philosophical research, control of the mind and senses, renunciation of fruitive activities, can be attained simply by engaging in bhakti yoga. केवलेन लभ्यं निश्चितं स्यात् इति च बोधयति. अतः भक्ति योगस्य सर्वमुख्यत्वं भगवत् स्वरूपस्य इव ज्ञेयम्. Therefore, it is indicated that bhakti yoga is the most important of all the different items that are different processes that are presented in the Vedic scriptures, just as the form of Bhagavan is the most important form amongst the various forms of the Lord. Bhagavan, Paramatma, Brahman, these are all different features. But the Bhagavan feature is the supreme feature. Ubhaya chinnena sakama nishkama lakshanena. Ubhaya chinnena, having both symptoms. Sakama nishkama lakshanena. Tadeva spashteti yo dharma pravritti nivrittiman. And this refers to Dharma which is characterized by attachment and dharma which is characterized by detachment. Two forms of dharma. Sagunaha kriya kritva adipraptyah swargadirupa ityarthah. Saguno nirguna swadrik. The Supreme Lord, as he is represented in the material, that refers to the Supreme Lord in the form of Swarga and so on, which are attained through these fruitive activities, sacrificial performances, and so on. By the Grihasthas, Kriyaya, Chavirdane. Nirguna, Nirguna, beyond the material modes. The Supreme Personality of Godhead beyond the material modes. The Supreme Personality of Godhead as is represented in transcendence. That refers to him being attained through sannyasa, yoga, and so on. Supreme Lord in the form of Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. Swadrik, one who sees his constitutional position. Swan, Ananyan Bhaktan Eva Asaktya Pashyati iti Swadrik Shuddha Bhakti Yoga Prapyah Bhagavat Rupa Ityarth. This H should be capital H. One who sees his capital H. This refers to the Lord himself. The Lord who can see his constitutional position. Right. Examine the Anvaya. What is this? 32, 33. Okay, yeah. 34, 35, 36. That's what it is here. Let's forget it. Okay, fine. Correct. It's meant to be capital H. So Swadrik indicates that the Supreme Lord, with feeling, with attachment, is always looking after his own souls, his own people. That means his exclusive devotees. This is a reference to the Lord's feature as Bhagavan, who can be attained through pure Bhakti Yoga. As it is stated in the previous verse, one has to follow the principles of the scriptures. There are different prescribed duties for persons in the different social and spiritual orders. Here it is stated that performance of fruitive activities and sacrifices and distribution of charity are activities meant for persons who are in the householder order of society. There are four orders of the social system: Brahmacharya, it should be Garhastya, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. For the Grihasthas or householders, performance of sacrifices, distribution of charity, and action according to prescribed duties are especially recommended. Similarly, austerity, study of Vedic literature, and philosophical research are meant for the Vanaprasthas or retired study. Study of the Vedic literature from the bona fide spiritual master is meant for the Brahmachari or student. Atmendriya Jaya, control of the mind and taming of the senses. Taming of the senses, a very interesting concept. You have to tame the senses. It's meant for persons in the renounced order of life. All these different activities are prescribed for different persons, so that they may be elevated to the platform of self-realization and from there to Krishna consciousness, devotional service. The words Bhakti Yogena Chaivahi mean that whatever is to be performed as described in verse 34, whether yoga or sacrifice or fruitive activity or study of Vedic literature or philosophical research or acceptance of the renounced order of life, is to be executed in Bhakti Yoga. The words Chaiva Hi, according to Sanskrit grammar, indicate that one must perform all these activities mixed with devotional service, otherwise such activities will not produce any fruit, any prescribed activity. So in other words, the householders are expected to engage in these fruitive activities, these rituals, these various sacrificial performances, and charity, along with Vishnu Bhakti. Similarly, Vanaprasthas are meant to engage in austerities along with Vishnu Bhakti. The brahmacharis are meant to study Vedic literature and Mimamsa along with Vishnu Bhakti. The sannyasis are meant to tame their mind and senses along with the renunciation of these fruitive activities and so on, sacrificial performances, charity, along with Vishnu Bhakti. Any prescribed activity must be performed for the sake of the Supreme Personality of God. It is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9.27. Yad karoshi yadash nasi. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you sacrifice, whatever austerities you undergo, and whatever charities you give, the result should be given to the Supreme Lord. The word eva is added, indicating that one must execute activities in such a way. Unless one adds devotional service to all activities, he cannot achieve the desired result. But when Bhakti Yoga is prominent in every activity, then the ultimate goal is sure. One has to approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna as it is stated in Bhagavad Gita. After many, many births, one approaches the Supreme Person Krishna and surrenders unto him, knowing that he is everything. Also in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Bhaktaram yagyat tapasam. For one who is undergoing rigid austerity or anyone performing different kinds of sacrifices, the beneficiary is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the proprietor of all planets and he is a friend of every living soul. The words dharmeno bhaya chikhnena mean that the Bhakti Yoga process contains two symptoms, namely attachment for the Supreme Lord and detachment from all material affinities. There are two symptoms of advancement in the process of devotional service, just as there are two processes taking place while eating. This is a very fine interpretation of pravritti nivritti in the entire adhyatmic sense. Bhagavata Dharma itself produces pravritti, attachment to the Supreme Lord, and nivritti, detachment from everything else. There are two symptoms of advancement in the process of devotional service, just as there are two processes taking place while eating. A hungry man feels strength and satisfaction from eating. And at the same time, he gradually becomes detached from eating anymore. Similarly, with the execution of devotional service, real knowledge develops and one becomes detached from all material activities. In no other activity but devotional service is there such detachment from matter and attachment for the Supreme. There are 9 different processes to increase this attachment to the Supreme Lord. Hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping, serving the Lord, making friendship, praying, offering everything, and serving the lotus feet of the Lord. Processes for increasing detachment from material affinities are explained in verse 36. One can achieve. Okay, wait. What is this? There's some question here. Yes.
Prabhu, when it is said here that Vishnu Bhakti, along with all these activities, the Vishnu Bhakti, it means itself, it comes already that controlling mind and controlling senses. So again, why it is
No, I
especially
don't understand
mentioned?
your question. I do not understand your question.
When you are saying Vishnu Bhakti along with all these activities,
Mm.
in Vishnu Bhakti, it is already coming that controlling mind and senses.
Now, here Vishnu Bhakti refers to Navavidha Bhakti. Hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping, serving the Lord, making friendship, praying, offering everything, serving the lotus feet of the Lord.
Okay, then the controlling the mind and senses are specially recommended for only sannyasis. It is
Sannyasis are
actually,
expected, sannyasis are expected to control their mind and senses to a very prominent extent.
but commonly it is also meant for everyone.
And that's okay. That is there. It's part of the 30 items of 30 common duties. But these are especially meant for sannyasis. We expect sannyasis to tame their minds and senses.
Okay, then here it is mentioned philosophical research. What does it mean?
I explained it. It is Mimamsa. There is Purva Mimamsa, there is Uttara Mimamsa, which help us understand the meaning of the material content of the Vedas and the spiritual content of the Vedas. Purva Mimamsa helps us understand the material content of the Vedas. Uttara Mimamsa is also known as Vedanta Sutra or Brahma Sutra, and it helps us understand the spiritual content of the Vedas.
So for brahmacharis, is it recommended to read these all things also?
First of all, they should at least read Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. They should read Prabhupada's books. Let them at least start with that.
After that,
At
they
least
can start.
that clarifies everything. These books are both introductions and conclusions of Purva Mimamsa and Uttara Mimamsa.
Okay, and bro, again in the another paragraph, it is said. Um, for grihasthas, it is mentioned the sacrifice. They have to perform the sacrifice. But now we don't recommend to do these sacrifices, right? Sacrifice means fire sacrifice only here.
For particular samskaras, there are particular fire sacrifices.
Okay, but in this Kali Yuga also we recommend the
Or
grihasthas
in
to
Kali Yuga
follow this.
also, they have to follow the samskaras now. So there is some. Actually, the fire sacrifices that are going on nowadays is nothing compared to how it was properly executed in the past in Treta Yuga. Those ones
Mhm.
would go on for one full year like that. It's a very detailed procedure. What we are doing is just for what, a few hours we do something one day. That do.
Yeah. So only Harnam Sankirtan is sufficient, they say.
Now, only Harinam Sankirtan is sufficient for those who are not grihasthas. For grihasthas, they are required to engage in many things. They need to do deity worship. They need to engage in samskaras. So many things they need to do. Okay.
Okay, Paul, then when it is saying that these all activities will help him, the person, to realize himself.
Realize himself.
Yeah,
When?
it is
Where?
said here. Yeah, here in the first paragraph only. These are different persons so that they may be elevated to the platform of self realization.
And from there to Krishna consciousness, devotional service. Yes.
So, also, one has to do all these activities to come to the platform of self realization.
First, yes. And then to Krishna consciousness.
Otherwise, not
Yes.
possible
Otherwise, not possible means what?
to come to the
Yes.
platform of self realization.
Yeah, otherwise, how else will you come to the platform of self realization? These topics are already dealt with in Bhagavad Gita. No?
Means only a Vishnu Bhakti does not help him to come to this platform, self realization.
No, those who execute Kevala Vishnu Bhakti, for them that they can come. But that is a very rare, it's so rare, even inside ISKCON is rare. Okay, so
Yes,
let's go
Prabhu.
on.
Yeah.
One can achieve elevation to the higher planetary systems like the heavenly kingdom by executing one's prescribed duties and by performing sacrifices. When one is transcendental to such desires, because of accepting the renounced order of life, he can understand the Brahman feature of the Supreme. And when one is able to see his real constitutional position, he sees all other processes and becomes situated in the stage of pure devotional service. At that time, he can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Understanding the Supreme Person should be capital P. Is called Atma Tattva Avabodhena, which means understanding of one's real constitutional position. If one actually understands one's constitutional position as an eternal servitor of the Supreme Lord, he becomes detached from the service of the material world. Everyone engages in some sort of service. If one does not know one's constitutional position, one engages in the service of his personal gross body or his family, society, or country. But as soon as one is able to see his constitutional position, the word swadrik means one who is able to see. He becomes detached from such material service and engages himself in devotional service. As long as one is in the modes of material nature and is performing the duties prescribed in the scriptures, he can be elevated to higher planetary systems where the predominating deities are material representations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, like the Sun God, the Moon God, the Air God, Brahma, and Lord Shiva. All the different demigods are material representations of the Supreme Lord. By material activities, one can approach only such demigods as stated in Bhagavad Gita 9.25. Yanti Deva Vrata Devan. Those who are attached to the demigods and who perform the prescribed duties can approach the abodes of the demigods. In this way, one can go to the planet of the Pitas, it should be Pitris or forefathers. Similarly, one who fully understands the real position of his life, adopts devotional service, and realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, wait 1 minute. Okay. One interesting point is that this word Swadrik, it refers to the Supreme Lord as the self-manifest absolute truth, but he also makes others see themselves and the Supreme Lord. There's a standard example given in Vedanta Darshan. The sun illuminates, is said to be both self-illuminating and world-illuminating. That means there are certain things which you see only because of themselves. You get to see the sun only because of the sun. Only when the sun rises, you can see the sun. When the sun doesn't arise, you cannot see it. So it is said to be self-illuminating. Swaprakasha. And it is also paraprakasha. You get to see other objects of this world when there is sunlight. So like that, Swadrik automatically implies that he is Paradrik also. He is seeing himself. The Supreme Lord sees himself, but he's seeing others also, and he's causing others to see themselves and others also. Okay, 37. Pravocham bhakti yogasya swarupam te chaturvidham kalasya cha vyaktagater yontar dhavati jantushu. My dear mother, I've explained to you the process of devotion service and its identity in 4 different social divisions. I've explained to you as well how eternal time is chasing the living entities, although it is imperceptible to them. तदेवं ज्ञानयोगम उपसंहृत्य तस्य च भक्तियोग प्राप्त्ये भगवती एव निष्ठां प्रदर्श्य समुचित दृष्टान्तेन भगवते एव कर्मादि सर्वमार्ग लक्ष्यत्वम् उपपाद्य इदानीं भक्तियोगादिकम् उपसंहरति प्रावोचम् इति द्वाभ्याम्. So he had concluded the discussion on Jnana Yoga, and he had pointed out that Jnana Yoga is meant to be fixed on Bhagavan, who is meant to be attained by Bhakti Yoga. And through an appropriate example, he had established that Bhagavan himself is the goal of all the different pathways, karma, jnana, yoga, and bhakti. Now he summarizes the processes of bhakti yoga and so on in 2 verses beginning with 37. Chatur Vidham in 4 divisions, 4 different social divisions. Triguna Nirguna Bhedena. There is bhakti in Tamoguna, bhakti in Rajoguna, bhakti in Sattoguna, and bhakti in Nirguna. Bhakti beyond the 3 modes of material. The process of bhakti yoga, devotional service, is the main river flowing down towards the sea of the absolute truth, and all other processes mentioned are just like tributaries. Lord Kapila is summarizing the importance of the process of devotional service. Bhakti Yoga, as described before, is divided into 4 divisions: 3 in the material modes of nature and 1 in transcendence, which is untinged by the modes of material nature. Devotional service mixed with the modes of material nature is a means for material existence, whereas devotional service without desires for fruitive result and without attempts for empiric philosophical research is pure transcendental devotional service. 38. जीवस्य संसृतिर्बह्वी अविद्या कर्म निर्मिता या स्वंग प्रविशनात्मा न वेद गतिमात्मनः. There are varieties of material existence for the living entity according to the work he performs in ignorance or forgetfulness of his real identity. My dear mother, if anyone enters into that forgetfulness, he is unable to understand where his movements will end. Once one enters into the continuation of material existence, it is very difficult to get out. Therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes himself or sends his bona fide representative and he leaves behind scriptures like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam so that the living entities hovering in the darkness of nations may take advantage of the instructions, the saintly persons, and the spiritual masters, and thus be freed. Unless the living entity receives the mercy of the saintly persons, the spiritual master, or Krishna, it is not possible for him to get out of the darkness of material existence. By his own endeavor, it is not possible. 39. Should be 39 and 40 here. 39. नैतत् खलाय उपदिशेन नाविनीथाय करहिचित् अस्तब्धाय न भिन्नाय नैव धर्मध्वजाय च. Lord Kapila continue. This instruction is not meant for the envious, for the agnostics, or for persons who are unclean in their behavior, or is it for hypocrites, or for persons who are proud of material possessions. So now he talks about who are disqualified for hearing Kapila Gita or the instructions of Lord Kapila. एतद् उपदेशेन अनधिकारिणः दर्शयति न एतदिति. Through texts 39 and 40 is pointed out who are disqualified for his instructions. Khalaha, khalaya, to the envious, for the envious. Who are the envious? Khalaha, दूषणार्थम एव कृत्रिम भक्त्या अधिजिगमिषुः. The envious refers to those who, through artificial engagement in devotional service, try to understand these teachings just in order to refute these teachings. Avinitaha, to the agnostic, for the agnostics. Shishta Maryada Rahitaha, those who do not accept the honorable codes of conduct of the civilized souls who accept the restrictions of Vedic civilization. Stabdhaha, Stabdhaya, to the proud, for persons who are proud of material possessions. Stabdhaha, Ati Garvavan, to those who are very proud. Bhinnaha, that also comes here. Bhinnaya, to the misbehaved. For persons who are unclean in their behavior. Bhinnaha, matantarena bhedam praptaha. It means those who have an understanding which is separate from what is being taught here. These are the ones who are referred to as the misbehaved or those who are unclean in their behavior, because behavior comes from understanding. And if you have a different understanding, you'll have a different set of activities. Dharmadhvajaha, Dharmadhvajaya, to the hypocrites, for hypocrites. Labha pratishtha adi arthameva dharmanishtaha. The hypocrites are those who are fixed in dharma only in order to attain labha, puja, pratishtha. They want some material gain, they want material honor, and they want material reputation. Okay, then it will come here. 40. न लोलुपायोपदिशेन न गृहारूढ़चेतसे न भक्ताय च मे जातु न मद्भक्तद्विषामपि. It is not to be instructed to persons who are too greedy and too attached to family life, not to persons who are non-devotees and who are envious of the devotees and of the personality of Godhead. लोलुपस् तत्तद्दोष रहितः अपि विषयभोगे अतिलोभी. To the greedy, to persons who are too greedy, even though one does not have financial difficulties or difficulties in various forms of sense enjoyment. It's not difficult for him to attain different forms of sense enjoyment. Still, he's very greedy. He wants more, more. गृहारूढ़ चेताः विषयेषु अति लोलुपः अपि पुत्रदार धनादिषु अति आसक्तः. To one who is too attached to family life. Even if a person is not extremely greedy for various forms of sense enjoyment, if a person is too attached to his sons, his wife, his properties, his wealth, and so on, then that person is considered to be too attached to family life. Abhaktah, ukta anukta sarvadosha rahitopi madbhaktihinah. And even if this person does not have any problems, any of these which have been enlisted here or anything which is not enlisted here also, if he is devoid of Vishnu Bhakti, he is devoid of devotion to me, Lord Kapila says. Kimcha, moreover, Brahma Pramadataha Kadachi Ebhyaha Api Upadashitanama. Maybe out of by mistake or by inattention, even if sometimes you might instruct it to any one of these people. Jatu Kadachid Api, never ever should you instruct Mad Bhaktad Visham. Should never ever instruct those who are connected to those who are envious of my devotees, those who are hateful of my devotees. Mad Bhaktad Visham iti Shashtyanta Nirdeshena tat Sambandhina api na upadeshe. Kimuta tebhya. Should not even instruct those who are supporters of people who are hateful of my devotees. What to speak of instructing those who are hateful of my devotees. What? Persons who are always planning to do harm to other living entities are not eligible to understand Krishna consciousness and cannot enter into the realm of transcendental loving service to the Lord. Also, there are so-called disciples who become submissive to a spiritual master most artificially with an ulterior motive. They also cannot understand what Krishna consciousness or devotional service is. Persons who, due to being initiated by another sect of religious faith, do not find devotional service as the common platform for approaching the Supreme Personality of Godhead, also cannot understand Krishna consciousness. We have experienced that some students come to join us, but because of being biased in some particular type of faith, they leave our camp and become lost in the wilderness. Actually, Krishna consciousness is not a sectarian religious faith. It is a teaching process for understanding the Supreme Lord and our relationship with Him. Anyone can join this movement without prejudice, but unfortunately, there are persons who feel differently. Therefore, it is better not to instruct the science of Krishna consciousness which such persons. Generally, materialistic persons are after some name, fame, and material gain. So, if someone takes to Krishna consciousness for these reasons, he will never be able to understand this philosophy. Such persons take to religious principles as a social decoration. They admit themselves into some cultural institution for the sake of name only, especially in this age. Such persons also cannot understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Even if one is not greedy for material possessions but is too attached to family life, he also cannot understand Krishna consciousness. Superficially, such persons are not very greedy for material possessions, but they are too attached to wife, children, and family improvement. When a person is not contaminated by the above mentioned faults, yet at the ultimate issue is not interested in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or if he is a non devotee, he also cannot understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So in
Hmm.
the Prabhu 237th verse, there is a line that devotion service mixed with the modes of material nature is a means for material existence.
Hmm.
So what is the meaning of this means for material existence?
When one executes tamasic Vishnu Bhakti, Rajasic Vishnu Bhakti, Sattvic Vishnu Bhakti, then he is within material existence. He does not attain liberation, does not attain impersonal liberation, personal liberation, nor does he attain love of God. That's what it means.
But this is the Saguna Bhakti. So this is the means for Nirguna Bhakti also, no? One has to begin with from here only.
One has to begin with what?
With devotion service in modes. Then only he can go to the...
Not necessarily, not necessarily, not necessarily. If one submits to an acharya who's fixed in Nirguna Bhakti and he directly listens, then that's all, it's over.
Mm-hmm. So means Sagun Bhakti is not a means for Nirguna Bhakti. Like
No, not at all. If that were to be the case, then he would have clearly said that.
Yes.
One might engage in Saguna Bhakti today because he is unable to engage in Nirguna Bhakti, but he has to find acharyas. I use the word acharya specifically because he has to be an exemplary teacher. He has to find persons who are exemplary teachers of Nirguna Bhakti, Transcendental Bhakti, Transcendental Krishna Bhakti. So when one finds exemplary teachers of Transcendental Krishna Bhakti, and then he serves them, obeys them, then he will also come up. So from Tamasic Bhakti Yoga, he'll come to Rajasic Bhakti Yoga, to Sattvic Bhakti Yoga, then he'll come to Transcendental Bhakti, Aprakrita Bhakti Yoga.
Okay, Prabhu.
Okay.
Prabhu, one follow-up question for this is, if they don't achieve impersonal personal realization, then what did they achieve? What do they achieve?
That is already stated. In Sattvic Bhakti, you'll get purification of the heart. In Rajasic Bhakti, you'll just get some material benefits. Tamasic Bhakti, you'll simply create a big mess.
So one whose heart gets purified by Sattvic Bhakti, on its own, he will not upgrade to Transcendental Bhakti.
On its own, nothing happens. On its own, nothing happens. On its own, nothing happens. When I surrender to the teaching of exemplary teachers, and I pray to Krishna, please make me eligible for Transcendental Bhakti. It is through Sharanagati that one can come to the point of Transcendental Vishnu Bhakti. So that Sharanagati has to be executed by that particular Atma. Each Jivatma has to do that himself. Nothing, there is no autopilot mode. Okay.
And in present verse, there are so many notes that we are not. This person cannot understand the devotional service. So, those who are envious to devotees, they are okay. It's understood. But supporters of those who envy devotees, this becomes sometimes difficult. That who is a supporter, who is not a supporter, or who will be a supporter of envious people.
You cannot go by predictions about the future. You can only go by who are what they are. Why do you have to deal with people who are hateful? We are supposed to deal with the neutrals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Somapatti Gauranga Prabhu.
Prabhu, and what about the non-devotees? That this devotional service should not be explained to them. It is mentioned. It also comes in Bhagavad Gita in the 18th chapter also. Those who are not devotees, we should not explain to them. And also again it comes in the holy name, that gurus of the holy name should not be instruct to a faithless person.
Correct.
But these all things we do openly when we conduct classes. We do,
Look,
but
never
not
ever
devotees.
start talking about what we do in ISKCON. That is not an evidence for me at all. So say things like, why did Prabhupada preach to non-devotees? Why did Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati preach to non-devotees? How does that match with this? It appears that they are disobeying this instruction.
Yes,
Like
yes.
like that you should ask. Don't say we are doing. We are doing all stupid things also. So we are not an evidence for me at all. Okay. So now if you carefully see, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given a way out. He says, first of all, you have to generate faith and respect amongst the non-devotees. There are different levels of instructions on bhakti. For in that Bhagavad Gita portion, Lord Krishna, he is talking about those who explain this. So let me show that. We have to take a Bhagavad Gita here to show you the context. Here. Look at this. Because you are my very dear friend, I am speaking to you my supreme instruction, the most confidential knowledge of all. So he is going to speak an instruction which he calls his supreme instruction. And he calls it the most confidential knowledge of all. That instruction is comprised of two verses, 65, 66. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. This is a Nirapeksha life, first of all. Then Lord Krishna says, this confidential knowledge may never be explained to those who are not austere or devoted or engaged in devotional service, not to one who is envious of me. This you should not teach and instruct and advise people who are not already devoted to Krishna. Those who are austere, those who are already devoted to Krishna, those who are engaged in practical devotional service to Krishna, and those who are not envious of Krishna, they don't want to merge into Krishna and so on. Only to such people you can explain this Nirapeksha engagement in Krishna Bhakti. So the others, what do? The others, we tell them, please take to Krishna, chant Hare Krishna, chant one round. Please come and take prasadam, chant and dance with us, come for the Sunday feast. So in that way, we generate faith in them. After we generate faith in them, then we start telling them about the actual process of Bhakti Yoga itself. In general, Bhakti Yoga is intense Krishna consciousness. It's Pradhanibhuta Bhakti. In Kevala Bhakti is super intense Krishna consciousness. So in general, you see Prabhupada generally engaged people in Krishna consciousness. Intense Krishna consciousness is for selected group. So Bhakti Yoga is intense Krishna consciousness. Here also you see in Lord Kapila's teachings also, he's talking of intense Krishna consciousness or super intense Krishna consciousness. So these things are not meant for just anyone. This is for a small subset amongst those who have already accepted Krishna consciousness. So intense Krishna consciousness is meant for those who have taken to Krishna consciousness. Just like we teach in the universities, for instance, there are some preliminaries for applying for a bachelor's degree course. You need to have passed your school, your 10+2. Only then you are eligible. One who has not even passed in school, he cannot enter into a university. He has to have that prerequisite. Similarly, postgraduate is meant for those who are graduates. So everywhere it is applied. That postgraduate instructions, education is not given to those who are not undergraduates. So like that. That's what it means. Okay.
Yes, Prabhu.
41 and 42. श्रद्धानाय भक्ताय विनीताय अनसूयवे भूतेषु कृतमैत्र्याय मैत्राय शुश्रूषाभिरताय च. That's an incomplete Sanskrit sentence, so I'll read out text 42. What? So what? That means the verb is taken from earlier on. Okay, fine. So then I'll read out this translation itself. Instruction should be given to the faithless devotee who is respectful to the spiritual master, non-envious, friendly to all kinds of living entities, and eager to render service with faith and sincerity. Adhikarinaha aha shraddadhanaya iti dvabhyam. Who are eligible to understand, they are set out in two verses, text 41 and 42. 42. Bahirjata viragaya Shantachittaya diyatam. Oh, okay. Here is the verb. Nirmatsaraya shuchaye yasyaham prayasam priyaha. This instruction should be imparted by the spiritual master to persons who have taken the Supreme Personality of God to be more dear than anything, who are not envious of anyone, who are perfectly cleansed, and who have developed detachment from that which is outside the purview of Krishna consciousness. Bahir. Bakhya Vishayeshu Viraktaya. So, one of the qualifications of the eligible candidate for intense Krishna consciousness or Bhakti Yoga is that he has to have developed attachment for what is outside. He has to be detached from external sense objects. For such a person, Bhakti Yoga Krishna consciousness is meant to be taught. So, the whole idea is first of all, one should prepare. When we say preaching, we mean first of all, you have to make this population who is respectful. We have to train people to become, first of all, faithful in this scriptures and then faithful to the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and so on. You have to train them to be respectful to the spiritual masters. You have to train them to be non-envious. You have to train them to be friendly to all kinds of living entities. You have to train them to become eager to render devotional service to Hari Guru Vaishnavas with faith, sincerity, honesty, without duplicity, diplomacy. You have to train them to take the Supreme Personality of Godhead as our dearmost, dearer than anyone else. We have to train them not to be envious of anyone. We have to train them to be perfectly cleansed. We have to train them to develop detachment from anything that is outside the purview of Krishna consciousness. Then we can start teaching them whatever Lord Kapila is teaching. In the beginning, no one can be elevated to the highest stage of devotional service. Here, Bhakta means one who does not hesitate to accept the reformatory processes for becoming a Bhakta. Aspiring Bhakta. In order to become a devotee of the Lord, one has to accept a spiritual master and inquire from him about how to progress in devotional service. To serve a devotee, to chant the holy name according to a certain counting method, to worship the deity, to hear Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita from a realized person, and to live in a sacred place where devotional service is not disturbed, are the first out of 64 devotional activities for making progress in devotional service. First means they are the top priority. Even though they're enlisted very last, at the very end of the 64 items, they are priority number one. One who has accepted these 5 chief activities is called a devotee. One must be prepared to offer the necessary respect and honor to the spiritual master. He should not be unnecessarily envious of his god brothers. Rather, if a god brother is more enlightened, it should be capital G, and advanced in Krishna consciousness, one should accept him as almost equal to the spiritual master. One should be happy to see such God brothers, capital G, advanced in Krishna consciousness. A devotee should always be very kind to the general public and instructing Krishna consciousness, because that is the only solution for getting out of the clutches of Maya. That is a really humanitarian work, for it is the way to show mercy to other people who need it very badly. The word Shushrushabhirataya indicates a person who faithfully engages in serving the spiritual master. One should give personal service and all kinds of comforts to the spiritual master. A devotee who does so is also a bona fide candidate for taking this instruction. The words Bahirjata Viragaya mean a person who has developed detachment from external and internal material propensities. Not only is he detached from activities which are not connected to Krishna consciousness, but he should be internally averse to the material way of life. Such a person must be non-envious. He should think of the welfare of all living beings, not only of the human beings, but living entities other than human beings. The word Shuchaye means one who is cleansed both externally and internally. To become actually cleansed externally and internally, one should chant the holy name of the Lord Hare Krishna or Vishnu constantly. The word Diyatam means that knowledge of Krishna consciousness should be offered by the spiritual master. The spiritual master must not accept a disciple who is not qualified. He should not be professional and should not accept disciples for monetary gains. The bona fide spiritual master must see the bona fide qualities of a person whom he is going to initiate. An unworthy person should not be initiated. The spiritual master should train his disciple in such a way so that in the future only the Supreme Personality of Godhead will be the dearmost goal of his life. In these two verses, the qualities of a devotee are fully explained. One who has actually developed all the qualities listed in these verses is already elevated to the post of a devotee. If one has not developed all these qualities, he still has to fulfill these conditions in order to become a perfect devotee. So first he has to become a pure devotee, then a perfect pure devotee. Yes.
Prabhu, regarding this, always chanting the holy name, how one can even chant while taking prasadam at least?
In the mind. Okay.
And Prabhu, regarding this initiation, it is mentioned an unworthy person should not be initiated.
Mm.
So unworthy person means those who are not following the minimum requirements, right?
It's already specified here who are unworthy.
Okay, so even Prabhupada also did initiate.
Yes, Prabhupada initiated. Now, what is your problem with Prabhupada initiating?
But he is writing unworthy person should not be initiated.
Unworthy person should not be initiated. Prabhupada did not initiate unworthy persons. No, he created an elaborate mechanism to bring in only people who are following four regulated principles, who are cooperating within his institution. So many things he created an elaborate mechanism for that now. Predetermined filters, so much filtering he had.
Okay, bro.
He created an environment by which if you don't fit into the scene, you will automatically leave. And even after initiating, those people who reverted back to material life, Prabhupada said they are no longer my disciples. That also he said.
I was hearing. Yeah.
Not only the bona fide guru accepts disciples, he also rejects those who have rejected the Supreme Lord. That also should be done. Otherwise, that spiritual master will fall down.
I was also hearing another lecture where you explaining that there are some spiritual masters, they take out their initiation beads in Gayatri
Yeah,
threads also.
there are some who actually reject, externally reject also. Yes. Yes.
It can be done.
What do you mean it can be done? It should be done. If it doesn't happen, then the guru will fall down.
Uh, and Prabhu, again, one more thing is that when we are trying to make someone a devotees, if they are not coming up to the standards to follow four regulatory principles and chanting 16 rounds, but still they are interested to hear. So I get confused that whenever we open Prabhupada books, he says repeatedly that we have to follow these things, but they're not doing them. Then how we can give them the association, or how we can help them?
You have to practice and propagate Krishna consciousness. If they don't want to accept or they're accepting very slowly, that's all. That's up to them. So if they're accepting slowly, they may take 40 years to come to the point. So some people are slow.
So we can encourage them like that only.
What is your option? What other option do you have?
No, either give up or simply go on with whatever level they can come.
Yeah, I mean, they've accepted to some extent.
Yeah.
So that much only. They're definitely not our premier customers.
Yes, bro.
43. Ya idam shrinayadamba shraddhaya purushah sakrit yo vabhidhatte machitta sahyeti padavim chame. Anyone who once meditates upon me with faith and affection, who hears and chants about me, surely goes back home, back to Godhead. एतत् अनुष्ठात्रीणां भाग्यं किं वक्तव्यम् एतत् श्रवणकीर्तनमात्रकृतः भाग्यं शृणु इत्याह. What to speak of the good fortune of those who actually execute bhakti yoga? Listen to the good fortune of those who simply hear and glorify this very process. Ya idamiti स मच्युतः सन् मत्पदवीं मच्चरणविन्यासस्थलीम्. With their minds fixed on me, they will attain my abode, the place where uh, I exhibit my pastimes. That can be a simple explanation. Mat padavi praptaham padapadmam sanidhyam va. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says. That means they either attain Lord Kapila or they attain his lotus feet or they attain proximity to him. Okay. Then we go to chapter 33. Activities of Lord Kapila. Activities of Kapila. 1. मैत्रेयोवाच एवं निशम्य कपिलस्य वचो जनित्री सा कर्दमस्य दयिता किल देवहूतिः विस्रस्तमोहपटला तम् अभिप्रणम्य तुष्टावतत्त्वविषयाङ्कितसिद्धभूमिम्. Sri Maitreya said, thus Devahuti, the mother of Lord Kapila and wife of Kardama Muni, became freed from all ignorance concerning devotional service and transcendental knowledge. She offered her obeisance unto the Lord, the author of the basic principles of the Sankhya system of philosophy, which is the background of liberation, and thus satisfied him with the following verses of prayer. Sarartha Darshini. Trayastrimshe Devahutya Sutah Shri Kapilo Yayau Vanam Tad Upadishtena Vartmanaiva Tam Api Sa. In chapter 33, we see Mother Devahuti offers prayers to Sri Kapila, and Lord Kapila, he goes to the forest and following the instructions given by Lord Kapila, she also follows in his footsteps. She also goes. She also attains the Lord. Janitri, Janayitri, the mother. Visrastam, where is that? Visrastamohapatala, Visrastam Mohapatalam, Bhakti Jnanadi Vishayakam, Jnana Samoha Yasyasa. She was freed from the covering of illusion, which means she was freed from all ignorance concerning bhakti, the process of bhakti, the process of jnana, and so on. So it's freed from all forms of ignorance. Tattva Vishayeshu, Bhakti Tattva Sankhya Jnana Tattva Yoga Tattva Adi Vishayeshu Ankitaha. Vishayankita Siddhabhu, Tattva Vishayankita Siddhabhu, and the background of okay. Lord Kapila is the author of the basic principles of the Sankhya system of philosophy, which is the background of liberation. The Supreme Lord is the background of liberation, and he is the author of the basic principles of the Sankhya system of philosophy. Tattva Vishayeshu, Bhakti Tattva Sankhya Jnana Tattva Yoga Tattva Adi Vishayeshu. Bhakti Tattva, here Sankhya refers to Jnana. Ankitaha. परमनिपुणत्वेन अंकगणनायां रेखा संजाता यस्य स च असौ सिद्धा भूमयः भूतलस्था जनाः यतः स च इति तम्. Lord Kapila is being described here. Lord Kapila is that person at whose lotus feet many people have attained perfection by following in his footprints, because his teachings contain the outlines of the truths of bhakti, jnana, yoga, and so on. The system of philosophy enunciated by Lord Kapila before his mother is the background for situation on the spiritual platform. The specific significance of this system of philosophy is stated herein as Siddha Bhumim. It is a background of salvation. People who are suffering in this material world because they are conditioned by the material energy can easily get freedom from the clutches of matter by understanding the Sankhya philosophy enunciated by Lord Kapila. By this system of philosophy, one can immediately become free even though one is situated in this material world. That stage is called Jivan Mukti. This means that one is liberated even though one stays with his material body. That happened for Devahuti, the mother of Lord Kapila, and she therefore satisfied the Lord by offering her prayers. Anyone who understands the basic principle of Sankhya philosophy is elevated in devotional service and becomes fully Krishna conscious or liberated even within this material world. 2. Devahuti Uvacha Athapyajontah salile shayanam bhutendriyarthatmamayam vapuste gunapravaham sadashesha bijam dadhyau swayam jatarabjajata. Devahuti said, Brahma is said to be unborn because he takes birth from the lotus flower which grows from your abdomen while you lie in the ocean at the bottom of the universe. But even Brahma simply meditated upon you, whose body is a source of unlimited universes. Tattvam Upadishya Yat Tvam Mam Samsarat Uddharasi Na Etat Chitram. It is not wonderful that you teach me philosophy. You teach me the philosophy of the absolute truth, and you deliver me from the cycle of birth and rebirth. Chitram khalu etadeva ya manushya nikrishta ya mamapi garbha jatah si jatareekrita ananta koti brahmandaha rameshwara itya. What is wonderful is actually that even though I am so inferior to you, as a human woman. You have taken birth from my womb when unlimited millions of Brahmandas are actually within your abdomen, since you are the Supreme Lord. With this in mind, she speaks the current verse, beginning atha iti vakyarambhe. अजः अपि ब्रह्मा अपि अंतःसलिले ब्रह्मांड मध्यस्थित सलिले शयानं वपुर्गर्भोदशायी रूपं तव दध्यौ केवलं न तु प्रथमम् एव ददर्श इति भावः. Even Lord Brahma, who was unborn, he was simply fixing his mind on you when you were lying within the water of, you're lying within the water of dissolution within the Brahmanda. When your body was lying within the water of dissolution within the Brahmanda, in your form of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. At first, he did not see you. Natu prathamam eva dadarsha iti bhava. The implication is, he only meditated on you. He never saw you. Idrisham bhutadi cha indriyani cha arthamscha atmamayah. What is this? Swamaya? Something is wrong. Atmamaya. Swamaya. Okay. Swamaya. Chidananda rupayu. Natu prakriti vikaraya tat. Bhutendriyarthatmamayam vapuste. What kind of body did you manifest? That body, in that body, all the elements, the senses, every other item, all of that is like you yourself. It is filled with your own nature. In other words, it is of the form of knowledge and bliss. This is not a transformation of Prakriti. Guna pravaham, gunan, bhakta vatsalyadin, prakarshena vahati iti tat, sat, saddashesha bijam, sat satyam, sheshasya jagataha bijam karana. And that transcendental body, it very nicely generates feelings of bhakta vatsalya and other such qualities. And that very body, that is the seed cause of all the universes. And it is true. It is not false. True meaning that it is permanent. It is not temporary. Brahma is also named Aja, he who is unborn. Whenever we think of someone's birth, there must be a material father and mother, for thus one is born. But Brahma, being the first living creature within this universe, was born directly from the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known as Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, the Vishnu form lying down in the ocean at the bottom of the universe. Devahuti wanted to impress upon the Lord that when Brahma wants to see him, he has to meditate upon him. You are the seed of all creation, she said. Although Brahma was directly born from you, he still has to perform many years of meditation. And even then, he cannot see you directly, face to face. Your body is lying within the vast water at the bottom of the universe. And thus you are known as Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. The nature of the Lord's gigantic body is also explained in this verse. That body is transcendental, untouched by matter. Since the material manifestation has come from his body therefore existed before the material creation. The conclusion is that the transcendental body of Vishnu is not made of material elements. The body of Vishnu is the source of all other living entities, as well as the material nature, which is also supposed to be the energy of that Supreme Personality of Godhead. Devahuti said, you are the background of the material manifestation and all created energy. Therefore, you're delivering me from the clutches of Maya by explaining the system of Sankhya philosophy is not so astonishing. But your being born from my abdomen is certainly wonderful, because although you're the source of all creation, you have so kindly taken birth as my child. That is most wonderful. Your body is the source of all the universes. And still you put your body within the abdomen of a common woman like me. To me, that is most astonishing. 3. स एव विश्वस्य भवान् विधत्ते गुणप्रवाहेण विभक्तवीर्यः सर्गाद्यनी हो वि तथाभिसन्धिरात्मेश्वरो तर्क्य सहस्रशक्तिः. My dear Lord, although personally you have nothing to do, you have distributed your energies in the interactions of the material modes of nature. And for that reason, the creation, maintenance, and dissolution of the cosmic manifestation take place. My dear Lord, you are self-determining and are the Supreme Personality of Godhead for all living entities. For them, you created this material manifestation, and although you are one, your diverse energies can act multifariously. This is inconceivable to us. Guna pravahena, by the interaction of the modes, in the interactions of the material modes of nature. Raja adi guna paramparaya vibhaktam vibhajyatam viryam. By the interaction of the modes, you have divided your energies. You have distributed your energies. That means sequentially, Rajoguna, then Sattva-guna, then Tamo-guna. In terms of these three modes, the Lord has distributed his energies of creation, maintenance, and destruction. Avitatha abhisandhihi. Avitatha abhisandhihi. Your determination is not futile. You are self-determined. Satya sankalpaha. What you desire will turn out to be true. What you resolve will turn out to be true. The statement made in this verse by Devahuti that the absolute truth has many diverse energies, although he personally has nothing to do, is confirmed in the Upanishads. There is no one greater than or on an equal level with him, and everything is completely done by his energy as if by nature. It is understood here, therefore, that although the modes of material nature are entrusted to different manifestations like Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, each of them is particularly invested with different kinds of power. Each of whom is particularly invested with different kinds of power. The Supreme Lord is completely aloof from such activities. Devahuti is saying, although you personally are not doing anything, your determination is absolute. There is no question of your fulfilling your will with the help of anyone else besides yourself. You are, in the end, the Supreme Soul and the Supreme Controller. Therefore, your will cannot be checked by anyone else. The Supreme Lord can check others' plans. As it is said, man proposes and God disposes. But when the Supreme Personality of Godhead proposes, that desire is under no one's control. He is absolute. We are ultimately dependent on him to fulfill our desires. But we cannot say that God's desires are also dependent. That is his inconceivable power. That which may be inconceivable for ordinary living entities is easily done by him. And in spite of his being unlimited, he has subjected himself to being known from the other authoritative scriptures like the Vedic literatures. As it is said, Shabdamulatvat. He can be known through the Shabda Brahman or Vedic literature, Shabda Brahma, Vedic literature. Why is the creation made? Since the Lord is the Supreme Personality of Godhead for all living entities, he created this material manifestation for those living entities who want to enjoy or lord it over material nature. As the Supreme Godhead, he arranges to fulfill their various desires. It is confirmed also in the Vedas, Eko Bahunam Yuvidathati Kam. The Supreme One supplies the necessities of the many living entities. There is no limit to the demands of the different kinds of living entities, and the Supreme One, the Supreme Personality of God, alone maintains them and supplies them by his inconceivable energy. .33.4 Sattvam Bhrito Micharena Natha Katham nu Yasyodara Edadasi Vishwam Yugante Vatapatra Eka Shete Smamaya Shishurankhripana. As the Supreme Personality of God, you have taken birth from my abdomen. Oh my Lord, how is that possible for the Supreme One who has in his belly all the cosmic manifestation? The answer is that it is possible, for at the end of the millennium, you lie down on a leaf of a banyan tree, and just like a small baby, you lick the toe of your lotus feet. Satvam maya manushya katham jatarena vritaha. How is it that I have held you within my womb? I, common human female woman. Iti ascharyasya karanam tvameva bruhi. You should yourself tell me why, or what is the source for this astonishment. That is the implication. Nanu swa shishau mayi katham evam brushe. And then she thinks that the Lord might ask, I'm your child. How can you speak like this to me? Tatra satyameva tvam shishuhu eva. And then she intends to tell him, yes, it is true that you are a child. And then she says, Yugante pralaye vatasya ekasmin patre bhavan shetesma. At the end of the millennium, you actually lay down on the leaf of a banyan tree. Kimartham maya shishu mam bala lalana abhyasinah samsarikaah api lokaah dhyatum shaknuvantu iti kripamaya balamurtihi ityartha. Why did he do that? Because he is maya shishu. Now maya has a number of meanings. One meaning of the word maya is kripa. Kripa shishu. He accepted that form of a child so that those who like to cherish and those who are fond of small children, materialistic people, we are talking of ordinary materialistic people in this world, even they should be capable of meditating upon me. Thinking like this, the Lord accepted the form of a small child filled with so much of compassion. Tatra samuchita madhura leelam aha. So at that time he engaged in a most appropriate sweet pastime. Angripanaha. He was sucking his toe. You lick the toe of your lotus foot. Angripanaha. Swacharana angrushta panakarta. He was sucking his toe. Sarvam eva sukham tyaktva matcharana madhurya eva sarve manishinaha nimajjanti. All kinds of intelligent people give up all kinds of happiness and immerse themselves in the sweetness of my feet. Tad etad mayapi aswadya anubhavaniyam. So then I myself should relish that and I should experience the taste of my feet. Iti buddhya eva iti bhavaha. Considering like this, you suck the toe of your own lotus feet. That is the implication. At the time of dissolution, the Lord sometimes appears as a small baby lying on a leaf of a banyan tree, floating on the devastating water. This is a very famous description. Vatasya patrasya. Vatasya patrasya. Shayanam balam mukundam manasasparami. Described by Markandeya Rishi. It comes in Bhagavatam, 12th canto. It also comes in Mahabharata. At the time of dissolution, the Lord sometimes appears as a small baby lying on a leaf of a banyan tree, floating on the devastating water. Therefore, Devahuti suggests your lying down within the abdomen of a common woman like me is not so astonishing. You can lie down on the leaf of a banyan tree and float on the water of devastation as a small baby. Therefore, it is not very wonderful that you can lie down in the abdomen of my body. You teach us that those who are very fond of children within this material world and who therefore enter into marriage to enjoy family life with children can also have the Supreme Personality of Godhead as their child. And the most wonderful thing is that the Lord Himself licks His toe. Since all the great sages and devotees apply all energy and all activities in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord, there must be some transcendental pleasure in the toes of His lotus feet. The Lord licks His toe to taste the nectar for which the devotees always aspire. Sometimes the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself wonders how much transcendental pleasure is within himself, and in order to taste his own potency, he sometimes takes the position of tasting himself. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself, but he appears as a devotee to taste the sweetness of the transcendental mellow in himself, which is tasted by Srimati Radharani, the greatest of all devotees. Okay, I'll stop with that. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripasinduphye vacha bhaktanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo